Hey guys, ChrisFix here. We're going to change the fluid in the rear differential today. This right here is the rear differential. What it does is it translates power from the drive shaft into this rear end to go to each wheel. So the first thing we're going to do is look for the filler plug and make sure we can unscrew that. Because if you can't unscrew your filler plug, then you'll drain the whole thing and you won't be able to fill it back up with fluid. So let's make sure we can unscrew that. This process that I'm about to go through will work for almost every rear differential vehicle. This happens to be an open diff. It doesn't have limited slip differential. So you can figure that out with the tag here. It'll tell you on the tag if it's limited slip or not. So if it's limited slip, you would have to add limited slip additive. But that's the only difference in what I'm doing right now. I don't have to do that because I just have a regular open diff. In order to do this job properly, here are the tools you're going to need. So you're going to need a ratchet, you're going to need an extension, and you're going to need a 1/2 inch socket. And that'll take the diff cover on and off. And also the fill valve on and off. You're going to need a screwdriver, a flathead screwdriver to pry the diff cover off. You're going to need a gasket or RTV to make a gasket, and then I use the pliers to cut the tip of the RTV. You're going to need a plastic, don't use a metal one, you're going to need a plastic scraper to scrape the old gasket off, brake clean to clean the mating surfaces, some paper towels, an oil catch can to catch all the drained oil, a torque wrench to properly torque up your bolts when you put the cover back on, and some gear oil to fill up the differential when you're done. If you have a limited slip differential, you're also going to need limited slip additive. And then you're going to need a pump to pump up the fluid from the can into your differential. And that's all you're going to need. Let's get started. Different vehicles have the filler plug in different locations. On my Mazda B3000 Ford Ranger, I have the filler plug right back here. I'll show you in a second. You can see it right there. All you need is the box end of a ratchet. I'm going to use an extension so it could fit in here better because it's kind of tight. And you might want to use a breaker bar. I don't think I'm going to have to, but if you have trouble getting this off, you could use a breaker bar. And let's unscrew this, make sure it comes off. So we're just going to use the box end of an extension here. So the back of the drain plug is actually magnetic, and you can see all the little shards of metal and stuff, which is okay. You want to make sure you clean that off. So the next thing you want to do is you want to check your fluid level. So just stick your finger in, and I can feel the fluid right up to the edge where it's supposed to be, so the fluid's up high enough. Good. So to prevent contamination, I'm just going to screw this back in. That'll be good because we're going to just change the fluid out now. Now we will put the oil catch can underneath and start unbolting these. We'll start from the top and go down, and we'll leave this middle one for the last. This is a 1/2 inch ratchet. So now we have this last one up here. We're gonna unscrew about halfway, just so when we pop this off, the whole thing doesn't come off. We just want the bottom to open up to let the fluid drain out. So we're going to leave it about right there, and now we're going to get a screwdriver and pry this off. So get your screwdriver, get it in between the case, just like so, and let it drain. And you can see, leaving this on top prevents this case from falling off, which would just make an even bigger mess. So now, I'm going to finish unscrewing the top, because it's pretty much done leaking out. And I'm going to take my cover off and let the rest leak out. So here's my differential cover, and now what you want to do is you want to clean this up really good. So you're going to get all the gasket off and clean out all the oil in here. And to help you, you could use some brake cleaner. So with most of it clean, I'm going to just spray some brake cleaner on there. The most important part is to get this surface right here where it's going to mate up with the differential as clean and smooth as possible. You can see that there's no cuts or divots or grooves or anything in this, because if there is, then you'll get a leak. So this is nice and smooth. We're just going to clean it up some more. So now with this surface nice and clean, I also clean the inside. On yours there might be a magnet in here. You want to make sure you clean the magnet off. And now we're going to go and clean the surface on the differential. So here's the differential, and you want to make sure the mating surface here is cleaned off. So I'm just going to take a paper towel and wipe it off. There might be some hard parts like up here that you need to pull off of the old gasket. You don't want to use a screwdriver or anything that could scrape this surface. Once you put a scratch in here, it's going to leak. So you want to try to use any tools that won't scrape it. I'm going to get a plastic scraper. Plastic won't scratch the metal. And I'm just going to make sure this is nice and flat. Okay, after scraping it down and wiping it down, just inspect to make sure it's nice and smooth. That feels really good. Now we're going to clean this surface with brake cleaner, but we're not going to spray it on. We're going to spray it on a paper towel first and then wipe this down. So now I have a paper towel with brake clean on it, and I'm just going to go around and clean off the mating surface. So the towel is really dirty. I'm going to do this one more time with a nice clean towel. Good, nice and clean, nice and smooth. Now if you have a gasket, you would put the gasket on and then screw the cover on and tighten it up and go in a star pattern while you're tightening. But this differential is hard to find a gasket for. So I'm going to make my own gasket with RTV, and I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So now we're just going to go over one more time with a paper towel. Make sure the surface is clean. And now we're going to use our RTV. This is a high temp version. You don't need the high temp version. It's all they had. But it's pretty much, it's a silicone gasket maker, and you want to make sure it's good for rear differentials, because some rear differential fluid will disintegrate the silicone. This one works for differentials. So just take the cap, puncture the top of the RTV, like so. Now you're going to cut this to the desired thickness. So I'm going to try this thickness first. You could always cut it thicker, but you can't go back. Just screw that on. Now we want to try to make a continuous bead going around the inside of these bolt holes. So you're going to want to start the bead at the top of the differential, because that's going to be the weakest spot of the bead, and that's right here. And that's about 1/4 inch thickness right in the middle of the surface. Take your time. Your goals for one continuous bead. It's not the end of the world if you can't get it continuous. It'll smooth itself. Like so. You only need to do this if you don't have a gasket, and now you're going to just let it sit for about 15 minutes, let it get a little bit tacky, and then we're going to put it on the differential, but we're not going to tighten it all the way. Within 15 minutes to an hour, you want to get this on your rear differential and tighten it down, just hand tighten it so that the gasket gets compressed and any air bubbles get pushed out, and it makes a nice seal with your other mating surface. So I'm going to go show you that now. Now would be a good time to go in and check your gears, make sure there's no cracks, there's no chips, there's no wear that you could visually see. I just did that, mine looks good. Now I'm going to put the rear differential cover back on with the RTV. So the key thing here is going to be get these two bolts in, top and bottom, without moving it around too much. So I'm going to push the bolt through the top, and I'm going to push the bolt through the bottom, and I'm going to do my best to align this without smearing it. Good. Top and bottom bolts are in. I'm gonna hand tighten the bottom one first. Hand tighten the top one. Not all the way, but just enough so that you start feeling a little bit of resistance. And now we're gonna go in a star pattern. I'm gonna start from the bottom, go top, bottom, top, side, 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 side. Now you could either torque them to about 5 foot-pounds each in that star pattern, or just tighten them down till you see a little bit of the red RTV coming out, and then leave it. Don't tighten it all the way. So you can see the RTV is starting to come out, and I'm literally just lightly turning it using only the head of this, so there's no torque. And I'm just making sure this is just tightened lightly by hand. So once the RTV starts to come out like that, you've done your job. It's like that around the whole thing. So you're just gonna let it sit for an hour, and then you're gonna torque it down to specs. And the torque specs for this are 25 to 35 foot-pounds. So let's wait an hour and then we'll go torque them down. An hour later, set your torque wrench to 10 foot-pounds, and we'll start tightening these down. Start with the center one. Remember, go in a star pattern. If you want to see how to use a torque wrench, just click the video on the screen or check the description. I have a good video to show you the basics. It's really quick. I think it's like 2 minutes. So after you go around once at 10, now you're going to switch it to whatever your torque spec is. So my torque spec's 25 foot-pounds. Now we're going to torque it down, 25 foot-pounds, star pattern. Good, they're all torqued down. Now we're going to go to the fill plug on the other side, and that's the angle you're going to see next. So we're back at the fill plug. I'm going to take it out. Now I have my gear oil right down here, ready to go, and my pump, and we're going to fill it up until it starts leaking out of here. Put your pump hose in, and put the other end in your gear oil. I'm using 80W90 GL5, and now you just start pumping. So once it starts leaking out like that, just get your finger in there. You can see it's all the way filled up. And now we'll screw the fill plug back in. 15 pound-feet of torque. Tighten it down to 15 pound-feet of torque, and then you're done. That's how you change the rear differential fluid. You can see there's going to be videos popping up here. Here I'll put the how to change the transfer case fluid, and I'll have a few more videos here. If you click on them, they'll lead you to other how-to videos that are very helpful, save you money. If this video was helpful, click like and subscribe. The likes help me out, and if you subscribe, you get feed update when I upload a new video.